Sometimes it feels like the hardest stories are the only ones we hear. This is 10 Better Minutes, a space for real stories that show a more balanced view of the world. Here, you will find recent, everyday moments that remind us all life carries both struggle and quiet kindness. Over the next few minutes, you will notice the world includes much more than the loudest headlines. We will begin with a story about Spencer from SB Mowing, who used lawn care videos to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for someone in his community who needed a hand. Spencer, a lawn care worker from SB Mowing, watched how one simple yard could turn into something far bigger. He posted a YouTube video introducing Debbie, and soon the message traveled. Cake News in Wichita reported that an Uber driver reached out to Spencer after taking Debbie home from the grocery store. Instead of looking past her, Spencer and his father went to Debbie's home and spent 2 whole days clearing an overgrown lawn and hauling debris to the landfill. What made that cleanup especially meaningful was how quickly it connected to real practical help. Spencer worked through his nonprofit, SB Mow It Forward, to cover Debbie's 3 months of back rent. Then a GoFundMe went viral, raising $685,000 from more than 22,000 donations. People were not just cheering from the sidelines, they gave with purpose, and the way those funds were handled mattered. The donations were directed into a trust where Debbie is the sole beneficiary, giving her steadiness and time to breathe while life caught up with her. It is a reminder that community support often starts small. A cleared driveway, a bag of yard waste, a phone call returned. Then, if enough people choose to care, that ordinary work becomes a bridge to belonging, relief, and a future that feels more secure. You know that feeling when the land finally feels like it is talking back to you, not just sitting there. This story is about a week in upstate New York where learning to farm becomes a kind of homecoming. In June, participants walk the grounds of Soulfire Farm in Rensselaer County, joining hands on planting and harvesting as they move through the beds. Their guide, Hillary Gata, points out herbs as if each one has a story to tell. Mint and lemon balm and oregano, all thriving in rows that invite attention. The immersion program runs 1 week with lodging, meals, and guided sessions, and the cost can be between $0 and $1,200, so people can come even when money is tight. Leah Penniman, a co-founder, frames the work beyond technique. It is a healing relationship, the kind that reconnects you to ancestral knowledge and helps you feel you belong on the land. And that matters because for many Black women and also Indigenous and other farmers of color, broken access to land, resources, and support has long made steady farming feel out of reach. You can almost feel the shift when a Boston neighbor girl harvests mint that regrew after a snowy winter. It is a small moment, but it holds the same message as the week itself. Participants leave with renewed knowledge and motivation, carrying stewardship forward with community beside them, and a steadier belief that the future can be grown from roots that are still alive. It is one thing to start over and another to find the right doorway when you are tired of searching. Today, we are looking at how community training can turn a setback into something steady and shared. Sana Pishgu needed a path forward after rebuilding her life in the United Kingdom, hoping to return to work she could feel proud of. In 2015, she fled to the UK as a refugee, and later in 2020 she was laid off, even though she had already trained and worked as a barista. What she waited for was practical support that went beyond advice. When Well Grounded enrolled her in a free barista training course, she also received shifts at real cafes and connections to partner employers, so her learning became real experience, not just theory. With that foundation, Sana set her sights on her dream, and in 2021, she opened Shiraz Patisserie in North London, named after Shiraz, Iran, serving specialty coffee and Iranian sweets that soon became a neighborhood favorite. Meanwhile, Abdul Hasib also needed a way into the coffee world, even though finding entry-level work had been difficult for him. He hoped that someone would notice his effort and help him use it. A simple WhatsApp flyer shared by his brother led him to Well Grounded, where he completed the program and transitioned into employment at the Exchange Hub, working 3 days a week and finding stability alongside the care he provides at home. What I love here is how hope can be organized into real steps: training, shifts, introductions, and a chance to belong in a workplace that feels like a community. After a harsh few years for wildlife, it is refreshing to see a recovery story that is quiet, real, and built on practical care. 1 year after Lake Tuz in Turkey nearly dried up, the Turkish General Directorate for the Protection of Natural Assets launched a water supply project designed to pump water into wetland areas where chicks nest. The goal was simple but crucial: give the next generation a chance to stay safe during the breeding season, when even small shifts in water levels can mean the difference between thriving and failing. It is the kind of work that does not make headlines on its own, but it supports everything that happens afterward, from parents sheltering their young to the algae food chain that keeps the lake alive. Then, in June, drone footage captured the results. On June 10th, the images showed about 5,000 young flamingos, protected by their parents and learning survival skills along the shoreline near the central Anatolia Plateau, about 90 miles southeast of Ankara. Reports also say that this year's chick numbers are more than double last year, and that there were no mass deaths reported in 2024. What I love about this is how hope here is not a slogan. It is a lake getting back on its feet, one careful decision at a time until a new flock can finally take its first steps toward the future. On Juneteenth, people often speak about the end of slavery, but there is another chapter of freedom that moved more quietly through classrooms and lessons. The question becomes, what happens when people are finally allowed to learn and then choose to teach anyway? Frederick Douglass needed words the way others needed air. As a young man in Maryland, he learned to read from Mrs. Auld, and in that small practice, his life began to widen. Then her husband intervened, treating literacy as unlawful and unsafe, and the lesson was cut off too soon. Years later, the law shifted. Congress enacted the 13th Amendment on January 31st, 1865, and on June 19th, 1865, news reached enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, that freedom had come. After that moment, many freed communities did not wait for perfect schools. They gathered in churches, in homes, and even under shade trees, forming makeshift classrooms where reading and writing could become practical skills. Support also traveled through churches, aid societies, and northern religious organizations, while institutions expanded pathways to education. By 1865, there were 4 historically black colleges and universities, and Howard University was established in Washington, D.C. by Act of Congress in 1867. Reflection does not have to be loud to be real. Learning did not simply follow emancipation, it carried it forward, helping people build job knowledge, citizenship skills, and a future they could actually read their way into. As always, I have a wonderful tip for you to help your mind settle a little and find more steadiness in the world. Today, we are talking about your weekly media diet, and specifically how to add one hopeful newsletter to it. Here is the idea. Instead of trying to remove everything that feels heavy, choose one small source of encouragement that you can count on. Pick a newsletter that feels grounded, kind, and practical. It might be about community projects, science done with curiosity, creative work, recovery stories, or simple acts of resilience. Then schedule it like you would any other appointment. Read it once a week at a consistent time, maybe Sunday afternoon or Wednesday evening. Let it be a bookend for the rest of your week, not a replacement for everything else, just a gentle counterweight. And when you open it, keep expectations simple. You are not looking for instant motivation. You are looking for a reminder that good things are still happening somewhere, right now. If you want, save the one sentence that lands with you most and carry that into your day. That is it. One hopeful newsletter. One weekly pause that helps your outlook breathe. All right, friends, we have reached the end of this episode of 10 Better Minutes. If today felt heavy or loud, I hope it helped you land for a minute and notice something simple underneath it all. People still choose decency. Communities still show up, and kindness still moves quietly through ordinary days. That is the point, really. Not to pretend everything is perfect, but to keep our attention on what is still working. If you have a good news story link or a local positive moment you think more people should hear about, please drop it in the comments so we can all share what we are finding. This is Ian Rhodes with 10 Better Minutes. Take care, and I will see you tomorrow.